It is.
We'll call them Tuesday, May 26, 2015 regular meeting of Board of Trustees to order, please. Roll call.
Veronica Frankel.
Present.
Howard Rosenberg.
Present.
Lisa Ruggiero.
Present.
Nick Smith.
Here.
Angela Taylor. John Mayer.
Here.
Logan is not here. And Barbara McClory. We have full gang is all here.
If you would, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Springtime attire, would you lead us in the pledge?
Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's neat.
Does she want to go before public comment?
And you're 39 again.
Okay, could I please have a motion to adopt the agenda with the following revised items. We will pull 501 because we've already approved the final budget, so we don't need to do it again. And I'm asking that we pull item 6.07 because we need some more work done on that. So we'll place that on the June 2nd Board Policy Committee for further review. That's June 2nd for further review. Also, we'll pull 3.11, appointment to the Oversight Panel for School Facilities, because we did not list the people there.
Very good.
I will ask for adoption as outlined.
I move.
To approve.
I move to approve, as outlined.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same signal. So carried. Let the record show unanimously. At this time, we'll have public comment. I only have one card, and it's agenda item 6.01. Nancy McCormick, would you rather talk now or wait for 6:01? All right. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I am Nancy McCormick, Vice President of Retention, Expansion, and Workforce Development for EDON. We are here to support the proposed expansion of TMCC High School to include a technical pathways option because we believe it's a positive action that will build on the already successful TMCC High School model. By putting an emphasis on strategic and growing industry sector of advanced manufacturing, and by offering coursework, certifications, and potential college credits, this program will provide new opportunities for students and will encourage them to pursue either college degrees or careers in more technically demanding industries. Based on our projections, advanced manufacturing will be a key industry sector for the region moving forward, and we anticipate that we will continue to attract and build a robust cluster of companies around this manufacturing core. Our expected job growth in excess of 50,000 new positions over the next 5 years will require significant investment in the training of employees for manufacturing, and this program is key to helping us meet this demand. EDON supports this initiative, which will increase enrollment in technical education and which is a critical component of Washoe County's efforts to ensure that we as a region will be able to meet the needs of both the current and future employers in Northern Nevada.
Thank you very much for your comment. We'll look at that when we get to 6:01. Thank you very much for coming and expressing your opinions. Next, and I'm sorry, I've got Brad Woodring. I don't have if you want now or if you want on some.
I'll just follow what she said.
Oh, all right. Okay, that's good.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Good afternoon, trustees. For the record, Brad Woodring, Manager of Economic Development for NV Energy, but also board chair for the Truckee Meadows Community College Foundation. I'm here today to make comment on the opportunity to expand TMCC High School to include a technical pathways option curriculum for the high school sophomores, juniors, and seniors. With the projected amount of growth, which you just heard from my colleague Nancy at EDON, of the new companies and need for skilled employees, workforce is a critical aspect of developing on the promise that Nevada is the right place to locate and grow your business. The technical trades are continuing to see an expanding demand in order to keep up with the already numerous companies and expansions that are occurring. The advent of this proposed expansion of the technical pathways option will be seen as a great commitment by this board and school district to address the right way, the needed process to create workforce required to continue to grow our community and region. The programs that will be emphasized: logistics technician, CNC machine technician, construction management, advanced manufacturing, and energy technologies, to name a few, are in demand now. To have high school students actively engaged in the study of these fields and others now will only enhance the ability of higher education institutions by churning out the needed employees in the very near future. To allow an 18-year-old graduate to leave his high school with, at the very least, a skills certificate and the possibility to move on to higher education to earn greater degrees is something we owe not to just ourselves as a community, but also to our children. I've been involved with economic development for the better part of a dozen years and have seen many companies come to our region only to be dismayed at the ability of our education system to churn out the number of required and skilled employees for their needs. I live by the mantra that without a skilled workforce, I don't have a job in economic development.
Thank you. That's your
the
3 minutes. Yeah.
Dang it.
But it was very good.
It, go,
Very good.
it goes by fast when you're having fun.
Was going to give me some of his time.
Oh, he's down here. Did you want to go now, or did you want to wait till 6:01? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. President, for the record, Dan Morgan, local business owner and trustee of the Bretzloff Foundation. What Brad just said about jobs and the workforce, I think is very important, but I'm going to talk just very briefly about something else. And that's taking young people and making them productive and giving them a passion. Several of you that know me know that I'm pretty passionate about education. Our foundation is very involved. And there's nothing more unsettling than a 15 or a 16-year-old that doesn't have a path for their education. And I think this program that Truckee Meadows is putting together, not only is our foundation funded some of it, but it's critical for these kids. Not everybody's intended to go to college. God knows I barely got through college, but productive people with good trades and good jobs so that we have the workforce that Brad was mentioning. So I would just look forward to you guys going down this path and working with Truckee Meadows to develop this program, which is much needed for the children of our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, all three of you. It's nice to have people that are willing to go down to Carson City and help us down there and help us. When I speak about us, it's 63,000 children, young scholars that need all the help we can get. And so thank you both for your testimony and for your hard work. Anyone else? That's all the cards I have. Did anyone else want to speak? If not, I see Charming Lindsay got escaped from Carson, not the prison, but Carson.
That's a question of opinion, too.
To get here, and she wants to turn around and go back to do that kind of work that I was talking about. What is it, 5 more days?
I hope so.
Good luck.
Lindsay Anderson.
President, Lindsay Anderson for the record, and I do appreciate you taking me out of order today. I have to be back for a hearing that starts at 3:30, so I'll be brief.
You'll drive safely.
I'll try not to get a speeding ticket. I haven't yet this session, so. Gosh, I know I haven't been here in a while. It's nice to see you all in person. It's supposed to be over next Monday at midnight. I'm hopeful that that's the case. I wouldn't bet my good hard-earned money on it, but we're working really hard now, lots of late nights and long hours to try to get all the policy and the budget discussion wrapped up. So I don't know how deep you want to go. I definitely have a few things to update you on, but I sort of feel like this is my last chance before it's over. So sort of speak now or forever hold your peace and ask me and tell me, and I'll tell you everything that I know. I sort of have things in my mind divided right now based on whether it's about kids or it's about adults. So I'll just sort of read down a list of things for you, and if there's something on either of these lists that you want to know more information about, I'll let you know, and then we'll quickly talk about capital, which I think is about kids and adults. So in terms of what's happening for students, the budgets were closed last Saturday, which means they know how much money they want to spend. So that's really exciting. There's a lot of additional resources going towards education, particularly for initiatives like Zoom schools, where that budget was closed with double the amount of money for the Washoe County School District. Victory Schools, which is approximately $750,000 a school per year, and I believe it's 4 or 5 schools, depending on kind of how the list shakes out at the end of the day. Fully funded the expansion of full-day kindergarten, a Read by Third Grade initiative with almost $30 million put towards it. The anti-bullying efforts, including some of the social workers, biliteracy, breakfast in the classroom, gifted and talented college and career readiness, JAG, lots of additional categorical spending. And I know you had your budget hearing, and I'm sorry I couldn't be here for that. And it's a little confusing because it's hard to include that information in your budget when you don't know for sure until it's really over how much money you're going to have. But I do think a lot of categorical spending is coming our way. In terms of the bills that I would call are kind of more focused on adults, there's legislation around the funding formula, the Achievement School District Pay for Performance, collective bargaining, teacher evaluations, and then yesterday, you may have seen, or it may be 2 days ago, it's all the same to me at this point, Senate Bill 511 was introduced, which is an initiative from the governor's office and the legislative leadership around dealing with teacher pipeline issues. So additional, I think it's $30 million over the biennium, $20 million for basically like a signing bonus type program for Nevada teachers, and then $10 million, I believe, that would be used to retain and incentivize our existing teachers. So that's a lot of money. That's exciting. That bill is going to be heard in what they call the Committee of the Whole, which is everybody, tomorrow morning, was just announced a few minutes ago. So that's kind of the legislation that's out there. Let's talk really quick about capital. Doesn't it seem like about a year ago we talked about the rollover bond being extended? I mean, that was so exciting, but that was March. I can't even believe that was the same legislative session. But we do still have Senate Bill 411, which is alive. It was the last bill voted on deadline day on Friday night at 11:55 p.m. in the Assembly. So I took a sigh of relief after that. Yeah, absolutely, I was there. So that bill has now been through both houses. It was amended in the Assembly side a bit, and so it has to go back to the Senate to concur and agree on those things, and then hopefully be headed to the governor's office. And just as a reminder, that's Senator Smith's bill that will allow us to pose a binding ballot question in 2016 based on the recommendations of a community-based committee. And that bill has been very important to us, obviously, to continue to address the growth and crowding needs we have in our school district. If we're talking about ballot questions, we can also talk about Senate Bill 19, which was our bill, which did not get a vote before the deadline on Friday night. And so that bill will have no further action on it. That was our bill that would have allowed school boards to pose advisory questions in general election ballots. I mean, I can tell you lots of reasons probably why that didn't go any farther, but the biggest one is really just the hesitance to expand authority of school boards statewide to pose questions like that, when really we can already go to the county and ask permission. And to be honest, the bigger issue was there was confusion between that piece of legislation and Senate Bill 411, a lot of ballot questions going on. And ultimately, when we have to pick which one we want to put our weight behind, it was around the school facilities issue. And so we're happy to have Senate Bill 411 still alive. So working really hard on that. So now the hard part, I would say, happens. They know how much money they want to spend. They just have to figure out how much money they can generate to do that spending. And so most of the next 5 or 6 days will probably be around revenue side, generating that money. There was a long hearing yesterday around the governor's amended tax plan proposal. So really now it's about how much money they can generate, and then if they can't get to the number in which they close the budget, then we'll have to start making some changes to the policies and the budgets that have already been approved. But this is the hard work now of trying to find out how much money we can spend. So, I'm here. This is your chance. Let me hear it.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Has any action happened on the latest incarnation of the campus carry bill?
Oh, funny you should ask. Yes, sir. In fact, just this week, the original campus carry bill, this is a long story, I'll try to keep it short,
Okay.
was amended to exclude K-12 except for a provision that would have allowed CCW permit holders to keep their weapons in their cars in the parking lot in a locked container. So that bill died, but it was resurrected this week in the exact same form. So it didn't include K-12 on campus, but it included the provisions for the parking lot. It had a hearing this morning in which no testimony was taken, but it's, I guess, alive in a new bill number, in a new form, but in a way that does not include the traditional sense of campus carry on K-12 campus.
All right, so we don't worry about it, K through 12.
Well, I would say, I mean, it's on our radar to see what ultimately happens with that. I mean, I think we worked really hard on the assembly side to get the provisions so that we could, I would say, tolerate it in the parking lot scenario.
Yeah.
So it's on our radar.
Any other questions? I have one, and that's 511. When did that ever come up? I just saw it recently.
Monday, I think it was
This
introduced on the
Monday?
Senate floor.
So,
Saturday?
yeah,
One of those.
Within 3-ish days, in the past 3 days, it was the concept was introduced, and then the legislation was introduced hours later, but that was the first we had heard of or seen any kind of language, so within a couple of days.
does that look like it's going to make it through? Because that surely would be a benefit to us to home grow our teachers, you know.
I would give it a high probability of success given the fact it was introduced by all bipartisan legislative leadership. So the leadership from the Assembly and the Senate, and Republican and Democrat, co-sponsored the bill and introduced it with the, authority of the governor. And so I would say is highly likely if they can find the money to pay for it.
Yeah, that's a big if. Is that the committee hearing you're going to?
No, that one is tomorrow.
Okay. Do you need us to, say, support 511, or do you just by reading it say, hey, this is sweet?
I don't say anything, but based on the feedback from our team, it sounds really like it's a good fit based on our current efforts to attract, including homegrown and diverse teachers. So I'm planning to support it. It fits into our board platform exactly how we would have wanted it to. The testimony tomorrow I expect to be very short because it's a committee of the whole and there's so many people in the same room. I spoke to the governor's office this morning and they're really just kind of lining people up to say thank you and move on. So.
And last meeting I thanked the finance people for working with the other people in the state to get this things moving. I want to thank you for working with our representatives down there with the School Board Association and Teachers Association and everything. I think this is a landmark for legislative session as far as everybody working together as a state. I really feel the things I hear from people that you guys are meeting together and deciding what is best for the state and not just what's best for one section of the state. So I want to commend you and your other colleagues that are with you on that for the work that you're doing.
For the School Boards Association is well represented. Not that you haven't always been, but I would say they're just as big a part of the team as ever. So thank you. It is a team. We're kind of like a family. I'm sort of going to miss these people. I see them more than I see my own family.
Have you got jerseys made yet?
No, but that's a good idea. Team Nevada.
Thank you very much for your hard
Whoa, Lindsay, thank you. I don't think people know that you text at 10 o'clock at night, like live as it happens, right? Like last night, I'm answering you back. So thank you for your leadership down there and making sure we have answers right away, because I know you text me at 8 in the morning, at 11 at night, like here's what's going on, we need answers, or what do you think about this, and how does it impact students in Washoe County School District, and how we have a collaborative effort with superintendents and districts across to to build forces. So just publicly, thank you, my
You're
friend.
welcome. Thank you for responding at midnight and others. And at the next board meeting, assuming that they're finished, I think is June 8th or 9th, I'll try to come back with sort of a preliminary list of here's what passed. The governor still gets 10 days after they're finished to sign legislation, so we don't always know whether he's going to sign or not. But I'll try to give you sort of the rundown, and then hopefully later in June I'll come back with sort of the full, here's the huge list of what is and isn't, and we'll talk about how it's going to impact our schools come August.
Thank you again.
Thank you for accommodating my timeline.
Be safe.
Okay, we'll move right along and move on to 2.01 board reports.
Tough being first all the time.
Well, you know, you were in my first grade class. Who else am I going to point to?
Thank you. Thank you, President Mayor. I'll just be very brief and talk about our Safe and Healthy Schools Commission. Last Friday, we had a great meeting where, what did we call it, Kristen? A World Cafe, where basically we had, and Mr. Malloy attended also, where we had tables set up where each of our commission members could go through and have small group dialogue and discussion on different aspects of mental health and school safety, which kind of fall under the purview now of our Safe and Healthy Schools Commission. And I think it was really fruitful for the commission members and also for staff. And I wish I would have thought about this ahead of time. It would have been perfect for our new trustees to participate. So we're talking about doing it again, just so you guys can kind of get a holistic picture of what we're looking at through the commission. But I really want to thank staff, the options department, emergency management. Kristen pulled everyone together and just did an amazing, amazing job. So thank you. Kudos to Kristen, kudos to staff, and thank you, Superintendent Davis, for all the support on that. So it was a very, very productive day on Friday. So.
Thank you for all your hard work and with that committee, and I'm looking forward to seeing great results from that committee.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
So I got a chance to get to Innovations High School twice in 1 week. I went to their multicultural night, which was really cool to see all those kids, and then I just got to go hang out and walk classrooms and talk to students during a regular day. And what a great place. And the new signage looks amazing. They're almost there. A couple things that they still are working on, but it's almost fully rebranded, which is pretty exciting. And I got a chance to get out to Spanish Springs Elementary School. They have a jogathon there, and it's one of their largest fundraisers that they put on so that they can self-fund a PE teacher to work at that school with those students. And so they raised quite a bit of money. I gotta give it to them. It was kind of raining and it was cold. But they still got it done. They had a DJ, one of the parents owns a DJ business. It was a really great environment, and they were able to raise some good money. So some good things going on out there that I got to go participate in.
See, there are several things I attended with other of my colleagues. I'll just stay to those that primarily were just me. I had a chance to meet with the GTAC Executive Board, which was really good. They have an outgoing president, Andrea, who's done Hughes Burrs, who's done a great job as their lead advocate, and they have another Andrea. So there's like the old Andrea and the new Andrea. Although they said don't call old Andrea. So I'm not quite sure what to call her, but she did a great job. So the new president is new Andrea. It's okay to call her new Andrea.
New Christine.
Yeah, kind of like that. But it was a great meeting with them to just share ideas and perspectives and so on. And you know, one of the greatest things about it is when you meet with groups that advocate so strongly for their students, which is what parents are supposed to do. You don't always end up agreeing on everything about it, but to have great conversation and dialogue and share different ideas. It was really a good meeting, and they shared that with others, and I appreciated that. I spent the day with Area Superintendent Dr. Roger Gonzalez on Friday, and so we hit 3 schools. It was a long, it was an impactful day. We started off at the Westergaard, and we started off at Clayton, and got a chance to see some of the things that they're doing there, and then we went from there to Westergaard. The former assistant principal at Clayton is now the principal at Westergaard, and they had their partner in education come by and bring some brand new scooters for the kids in the raffle for perfect attendance. And so it was great just to see that kind of community involvement and talk about their curriculum, and then ended up at my alma mater at Hug High School. Spent some time up there, got a chance to talk to some kids, more so even one-on-one there. So they have that is it's a great high school, very, very unique in its approach to students. And the principal, Lauren, talked about how involved she is and the accomplishments she's looking forward to in terms of their graduation rates and the direction that they're moving in. And then, what else did I want to mention? Oh, multicultural senior recognition. It was the first time I went to that, but I was there with some other colleagues. The symposium on race. It was the local law enforcement agencies and our law enforcement agency. Chief Trevino was there. It was just great to see all the law enforcement agencies come together and talk about the issue of race. It was at the university. I think there are, a couple hundred people or so there? You think? It was a great attendance, really great conversations just to continue it. Great diverse group. Some of them were some hard conversations, but it was really great to see some people come together and even agree to disagree on some things and ask some hard questions. And I was really proud to see, even though our law enforcement team here isn't 24/7 like many of the others, and Superintendent Davis and I were talking about that, we still had some presence, had some involvement, so it was really good to see so many of our officers there, and our chief was there as well. So I'll leave it at that, because there's others that others will add. So it was a great couple weeks.
Sounds great. Let's see, Dr. McCleary.
Well, I've been back into the neighborhood in Northeast Reno. I visited both Bernice Matthews and Rita Cannon. I've visited Rita Cannon now twice, interested in looking at the kind of instruction that's going on there, some of the issues that they have, and trying to provide some guidance, if that's possible, to all of the families and the teachers and the principals in the neighborhood. And that's a place that I always have a great passion for. So that's about it.
Mr. Rosenberg.
The multicultural situation that we went, well, I was there as the assistant to Trustee Frankel and Trustee Taylor. I held the medals and didn't drop any.
You did a great
Went
job,
well.
too. Great job.
There must have been at least 500 people in that room.
There were almost 900. There were almost
Well,
900.
I'm afraid we've outgrown it. And next time, we're going to need to use Lala.
It was packed.
It's packed, and it was wonderful. It really was. Then I went to the Jesse Beck Arts Evening, which was really spectacular. They took these little darlings' works, and they presented them formally, and then they auctioned them off, and they made money. Now, I don't know how many people know what an artist goes through, but rarely does he ever see money for his work. These kids' eyes were as big as saucers. They look like Cadillac hubcaps. They had the best time, and they did a wonderful thing for their school. It was wonderful.
Thank you. That is an enjoyable evening. Trustee Frankel.
Yes, I'm pleased to say that I had the opportunity of hearing Dr. Green at the community meeting at the options area at Innovations High School as well. And even though there were more staff than parents, the energy of that room and the commitment and dedication, and I think options is the best name for it, because really what we're doing is providing so many different pathways and options for our kids. And so I was so pleased with all of the description of the programs. It was a great way to get to know that area as well. I also attended, I think we tag teamed a little bit at the Jesse Beck fundraiser, because I love supporting the arts, and I was so impressed with the artwork of those kids and the enthusiasm and the support from so many community partners who donated so many things for the silent auction. But the live auction of the artwork itself was by far the most enjoyable part of the evening. And my favorite piece, and I'm going to shout out to those kids, I forget which class it was, but it was totally tubular. And they took pieces of magazines and rolled them up into little tubes and made a huge art piece out of those. It was really creative and beautiful. I also attended the multicultural event, and of course Vice President Taylor is being modest in neglecting to mention that she was a keynote at that event and had those kids rocking. I mean, in fact,
yes.
Trustee Rosenberg and I were just about to jump up and shout with her.
Hallelujah!
She had us all going. So she was fabulous, and I really enjoyed that event and the energy of that event, and hearing where all those great seniors are going to be going to school next year. So many of them are going to be going to UNR, many other schools around the country, TMCC. It was fabulous. I had my Teacher and Leaders Council meeting last week in Carson City, and as you heard from Lindsay, the bill regarding teacher evaluations is still pending, so there's a few more things to be worked out there. We did hear results of the validity study on the new framework, the performance framework, and there are some interesting results. I think there's more work to be done and more challenges ahead, and I'll keep you posted as we progress. And then that same day, I had the opportunity to go to the Gifted and Talented Education Program report night. And I was wearing 2 hats at that night, I will confess. My daughter also gave a report, but I was there as a trustee. So pleased to hear, just in the room I was in, all the different experiences that our kids had the opportunity to have, thanks to some great mentors in our community. And I want to thank all of them. I mean, I can't name them all, there's so many. But there were some incredible stories, and most of the kids really were impacted personally. Some of them have actually gotten jobs for the summer and are going to be going back for follow-up internships. My daughter's going to be doing it again next year for her senior year. She loved the experience so much. So I want to just sort of shout out to Lisa Riggs and the GATE program for that incredible program that they've offered. And of course, Mr. Harrison, and I'm totally drawing a blank on the other teacher who coordinates that program, but they do a fabulous job with all those students, turning it into a real learning experience.
That's great. I want to start off with thanking intern Tracy Davis for reinstigating the Lions Club I program. It's been dormant for a while, and her staff have met with the Lions Club and so forth, and they had a target number of schools to do the eye screening at, and the staff has gotten together and has increased the number, and I was at their eye program that they awards or whatever, and they collected through the schools old eyeglasses, 2,700, and if you go into your doctor's office and you give it to him, he can't reuse it by law. So they send it to foreign countries, and they redo the glasses and use them in those countries. And so the children really responded to this program. And then I want to thank you for restarting that. That's great. And then Howard and I were fortunate enough to interview the student that will be joining us at the table, and we had great candidates, and Howard and I both thought that we could just put the hat down and draw the name and have a real good person. And we're going to have Kyle Hood is going to be joining us next year as the student representative, and he comes from Galena High School. And it was really interesting because two of the young lady, he and another young lady, both started elementary school at Brown, and here they are at one's at Galena and the other's at AACT, and they reunited it for the first time, I guess. But I think he's going to be doing a great job. Yeah, she's the vice president. Maya, yeah. And then I want to thank again the finance department for all the work that they do on the budget. I just think to have 2 separate nights of budget workshops, then have the intermediate step, and that's a budget workshop, and then a temporary budget, and then a preliminary budget, and all the work you do to get to a final budget. I just think that's wonderful. And then one of my pleasures being a veteran is to go to ROTC awards nights. And if you haven't read B News that I publish once in a while on the internet, please go, and there's a letter there from one of the kids in ROTC that was a senior this year that's going out, and he did a speech. But before you go to the website, grab some Kleenex, please. And it got so touching that Mr. Rosenberg took his hanky out of his pocket to give to one of the girls. It was just sobbing tremendously. And it was just fun to see that. But I was at Spanish Springs High School, your alma mater, and it was a special occasion there because after 15 years, the first ROT instructor that started that program is retiring after 15 years at that program. And so it was kind of emotional. The kids all hated to see him go, and it's, I don't know if it's funny, but it's enjoyable for me to see how much those children appreciate their instructors, and they hugged him, and oh, it was very emotional. So that was great. And then I went to Reed High School, and I told most of you about how girl going to Harvard and the other girl is going to Harvard by the river, UNR. And then I went to Reno's, and if we don't get done with this meeting, I'll get up and leave it to you because I got to go over to Worcester to see theirs. Yes. So now we'll have the interim superintendent report, please.
Well, I'm surprised nobody mentioned our end of the year celebration with the Student Advisory Board. Oh, it was great. Our student leaders that serve on the Student Advisory Board had their end of the year celebration, and we are so excited about them moving on and going to college and doing a variety of things, but they are a great bunch of students. We had our school admin celebration for people going into the pool to be future APs and principals, and so they survived that, and we celebrated with them at the steakhouse and just kind of talked about the hard work they put into that. But we know that they are our future leaders, and as we grow, we need more future leaders to guide and lead our buildings, so we're really excited about that. I attended the law enforcement symposium with you too. We were running around, but my greatest story today is about the WEA scholarship ceremony, and I don't know who had an opportunity to attend, but there is a student who basically had challenges in her life, and her father died when she was young, and her mother was on drugs. You know the story that seems to sound sad, but she's graduating with a 3.8 from Reno, but she is an inspiration because she has been in a wheelchair or on crutches all her life. And she is an inspiration to other students that they can get to the finish line despite the challenges. So we should be very thankful for the many stories we have this year. Great stories about kids, whether they're going to Harvard or Harvard by the river, or if they're taking classes at TMCC, if they're doing other things. There are so many kids getting to the finish line, and we are so proud of our staff, teachers, principals for helping those kids get there. And so we should always be encouraged by the stories of what we do for students every day.
Thank you. And at noon today, on our website, they are starting 17 students with their picture and their reports and everything. So go on our website and go and see those wonderful students that we have in Washoe County High Schools, because they are Washoe County School District, and you'll be touched and you'll be happy. But it's every day they put up a new student until because it's 17 days till graduation or school or whatever. And go and read those reports, essays and things, because you'll really get an enjoyment out of it. So moving right along, we'll go to 301, which is asking for approval for consent items 3.02 to 3.11. And one of the items is reappointing Lisa Ruggiero to the NIAA, and she's in line to become president of that organization. Yeah, we pulled 311, and that was it, right? Right, 311, so it'll be 3.02 through 3.10.
I'll make the motion. I move that we, that the Board of Trustees approve the consent agenda items 3.01 through 3.10.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same signal. Carries unanimously. Let the record show. Okay, we've already done item 4.01. So now we're going on to 6.01 because we didn't have to do 5.1 final budget. Let me see that. There you go. So 3.01 is a presentation, discussion, and possible action on the expansion of TMCC High School to include a technical pathways option for possible action. So the presenters, Dana Ryan, Susan May Smith, Gail Carson, Gretchen Sawyer, and Dr. Sheehan. Okay.
Good afternoon, Board President John Mayer, Board of Trustees, and Interim Superintendent Tracy Davis. Unfortunately, TMCC President Dr. Sheehan is held up in Texas with all the rains and the travels. She had hoped to be here today and is very disappointed to not be here. So hopefully
she's okay?
She's okay, yes. Hopefully she'll be arriving tonight. So I am Gretchen Sawyer. I'm the Executive Director of the TMCC Foundation, and I'm pleased to be here today to present this expansion of the TMCC High School to include the technical pathways option. We have other members of the committee here to present as well. I'm going to provide just an opening. So this program will assist our students in fulfilling the ever-expanding workforce needs in Northern Nevada. We are proposing that the exciting, successful TMCC High School be expanded to include a technical pathways program of study for students beginning in their junior year of high school. This program will allow students to engage in a course of study that will allow them and prepare them for employment upon graduation. In addition, students will be provided with an early college experience that includes rigorous high school classes and dual credit college courses so that they graduate college and career ready. This last Friday at TMCC's commencement, we were pleased that 19 TMCC high school students were also TMCC college graduates. Since you approved the feasibility study at the February 24th Board of Trustees meeting, a committee of school district and TMCC staff have met regularly to conduct the study and prepare the results to present to you today. And on the screens, you'll see the committee, including Washoe County School District staff and TMCC staff. After study and discussion, the committee is recommending that the board take action and approve the technical pathways option that would begin in school year 2016-2017. As you heard from members of the community during public comment, this expansion will assist with helping to fill the workforce development needs that are present and growing in Northern Nevada. In addition, the expansion complements the existing signature academies. I'm now pleased to introduce to you Jim New, TMCC's Dean of Technical Sciences, who will begin our presentation.
Thank you, Gretchen, and good afternoon, trustees. It's a pleasure to be here. I have been the director, the administrator over the Applied Technology Center that TMCC operates across the street from AACT on Edison Way. I've been there for approximately 10 years now, actually a little over 10 years as a matter of fact. And it was about 10 years ago that then President Phil Ringel talked to me about the potential of expanding a TMCC high school style program into our technical programs. And over the years, we have considered different iterations of that possibility. For example, one of the iterations we considered was simply a freestanding high school within the Applied Technology Center across the street from AACT. an expansion of AACT, which at the time was the Regional Technical Institute, or just an expansion of the TMCC High School. Ultimately, in our discussions with the members of the committee that Gretchen displayed to you, we decided that the best course of action, the most economical course of action, was to build on the success we already have realized with the TMCC High School. So that is our proposal before you today, is to seek approval to expand the existing TMCC High School to include technical pathways that will be taught primarily at our Applied Technology Center on Edison Way. We believe that we can begin this program as early as fall of 2016. It will take some renovation of our building, but as a matter of fact, we shut the building down just the other day to begin phase 1 of a $3 million renovation project that we're very, very excited about, and we are seeking the funding for another phase of renovation that will complete that building for the final time. This is about the 6th renovation I've gone through in 10 years in that building, so I'm very excited about the potential of having it done. So, yes, goody's a good word. 11th graders will be targeted for the first year of the technical pathway. We will start with 11th graders in fall of 16 and continue with more 11th graders moving in the fall of 17. Of course, the first cohort of 11th graders continuing into the fall of 17. And we anticipate that we will build up to an approximate capacity of 114 to 120 students when we are at full capacity. And Susan May Smith will describe the process of bringing in the students and the anticipated attrition that we expect. This is a very proactive approach to the Northern Nevada workforce. As you are all aware, Northern Nevada is finally making that transition that we've hoped for so many years, away from hospitality and gaming and into high-tech, advanced manufacturing. And we owe no small thanks to our economic development partners who have been responsible for making that happen. It's very exciting times in Northern Nevada, and from my seat, it's also very frightening times in Northern Nevada when you take into consideration that the Gigafactory with 6,500 employees will need about 4,000 of those employees trained at the technician level, which is the training that we do at the Applied Technology Center. So the programs that we will be looking at, oops, there we go, that will be emphasized with the expansion of the TMCC High School will be those programs that are responsive to the recent economic development trends in the region. Primarily our advanced manufacturing programs, such as the CNC machining, our production technician programs, our advanced welding programs will all be responsive to these changes. But our other programs as well are responsive. We anticipate that as advanced manufacturing grows, so does the logistics industry, which is already well established in the region, which also relies on the skills of our diesel technicians. We have advanced programs in UAV that are cutting edge. I was in a meeting with the representatives from Switch a few weeks ago, and I was excited because my background is in computer technology, so I really wanted to talk to them about the IT possibilities. And they said, you know what we really need are HVAC technicians, which was good news too, because I oversee that program as well. So I was very excited to see that. So literally every program we have as a potential pathway for the students attending the TMCC technical pathway out of the high school will be pathways that provide good frontline jobs and careers for the students who choose to attend that pathway. Now, to expand on how this will work with TMCC High School, I'd like to introduce Susan May Smith, who has done a phenomenal job as the principal of TMCC High School, and she will expand on it from the high school point of view.
Good afternoon. Interim Superintendent Tracy Davis and so many of the trustees that I have known for many years, President John Mayer. It's an honor to be here today in such an official capacity. But as you know, I'm departing for greener pastures. No, I'm really not going out to pasture, but other fun opportunities, and I'm glad to be here today to support my colleagues in Washoe County School District as well as at TMCC in presenting and proposing such an outstanding idea in shared resources, in partnerships, and in building the future workforce as quickly as possible based on the needs that have been presented today. TMCC High School's current enrollment is 230 students. You are aware it took a number of years to expand to 10th grade. With the 10th grade expansion, the number of students earning an associate's degree upon high school graduation will increase from 10% last year to 20% this year. Next year, when our first class of 10th graders graduate, that will be at about 70%. Do know that historically, less than 10% of TMCC high school students have graduated high school with a technical certification. Now, up to 10% is still impressive because the high school program is set up in a way to allow that. Interestingly enough, a good number of our students with CTE certifications are young ladies with CTE in welding and automotive. We're very proud of that and pleased that we can work with Jim New on having made that happen. So now do know that we are, with this expanded pathway, TMCC High School doesn't really do anything differently except accommodate additional students at a new, renovated, and expanded site over at Edison Way, with being driven by donors and industry, knowing that we could meet a need. While the current data shows that TMCC High School's attrition rate is really under 3% a year, we are conservatively estimating up to a 10% attrition rate if we are bringing students into the career pathways, because some will change their minds, and we want to accommodate that change of their interests and desires for their goals. If we have that 10% attrition rate, we would grow probably up to about 350, 360 students over the current 230 that we have right now. All of the high school and college classes that the students will be taking through a grad plan that's established when they enroll as juniors will guide them through the dual credit options that we have already set up that includes core subjects and also the technical classes. At the Edison Way facility, the students will take English and social studies or history, U.S. history, as juniors, as they currently do, and they will take STEM algebra. Some of those students, though, will already test into college math and have completed algebra at their sophomore level. So we'll have opportunities for them to take the college math that they test into. With that, I would like to say then that we have been guided economically and financially by Washoe County School District's controller, and I'm here now to introduce Gail Carson, who can lead you through some of the numbers. Thank you.
All right, now for the fun stuff. Not that this all wasn't fun. Okay. So we took a lot of different numbers and we put them into two different charts for you. The first chart that you see has to do with just the technical pathways option. So TMCC High School is already in the budget, so we haven't addressed that at this point. This is just what it's going to cost us to add in the technical pathways. You can see the first thing we have is salaries and benefits. We figure we're going to need one full-time teacher and another administrator. So there's the cost for that, salaries and benefits. We have registration fees for all the students with the estimated course load that we came up with. That is at a 25% discount through TMCC, so saved some money there. The lab distance ed and other fees and the technology fees, those are just things that go with all the different credit fees that are there. So you can see in the first year that this plan would be, or this program would be open, estimated cost would be about $226,000 above and beyond where we're at. And you can see how that carries over into year 3 at $387,000. When you look at the total students in the pathway, in the Tech Pathways program, then we've also given you a cost per student. So about $4,500 in that first year per student, and about $3,300 in the second, and so on. Then, just so we don't get you too bored, we're going to now compare apples to oranges. Okay, so this is the apples, here's the oranges piece. Okay, this particular piece lets you know how this impacts TMCC High School as a whole. So we've taken school year 13-14. These are actual numbers that were reported to Insight out of our financial systems. The total TMCC High Schools in 2013-14 was 214. And if you just follow that down, you'll see the high school, TMCC High School cost per pupil, $6,983. The Washoe County School District average cost per high school pupil, we kept it all at the same level, was $74.98. We save about $515 per pupil by having them go through TMCC High School at about $110,000 savings in FY14. Okay, so we took those numbers and we projected them out with the increases in salaries and overhead and all that other stuff that goes. And you can see that in that first school year, 16-17, with projected 290 students, $852 per student savings, we're looking at savings about $247,000 versus educating them in a traditional high school. And if you're wondering how in the world does that happen, because we're paying, right, we're paying the tuition and we're paying all those other fees, the biggest difference is that we don't have the cost of maintaining the facilities. That's all part of the registration fees that we pay to the college. So it's a huge difference when you start looking at it, but that is the main difference. Okay? I'm going to let you look at those numbers for a little bit, and in the meantime, we're going to have Dr. Dana Ryan, who is the director of, I'll never remember this whole thing. Okay, and she's going to walk you through some more of the things that we've gone through.
So, hi. Nice to see you all. It's always nice to see you. It's very stressful to come here, even though it shouldn't be, right? Your heart starts to pound, and you think, oh. So these guys did a great job.
They did.
So the question really on the table for me was, what is the Signature Academy relationship, and how does an expansion of this kind affect the career and technical education programs that we already have in place, that we know are successful and growing? And I really believe, having looked at, with this group, at all of the different possibilities, that this is a complement to what we have in place. Because when you look at Signature Academies, we're really looking at asking students to decide in 8th grade, what is it that I'm interested in? That's a big responsibility for an 8th grader. And so we have lots of kids who can do that, but we have lots of kids who can't. Then when they get into high school, we say, hey, here's these great opportunities at your school for a career tech ed path. If you get in by the time you're a sophomore, you can complete it, you can get a state certificate. But sometimes we have students who can't make that decision even then. Once they get past that freshman year into their sophomore year, they really can't be completers in our pathways, and they lose something by not getting to that third level where they really have autonomy and they're bringing together technical skills, academic rigor, and they're learning those applied soft skills. So we want them to have that opportunity. To me, this is a great entry place for a student who maybe figures this out later, has an opportunity then to go to TMCC and in 2 years get the same education that they would have gotten in a 3 or a 4 year pathway in our high schools. So really, it allows us to expand what it says here. It gives us an opportunity to get kids to that technical certificate, really prepare them for what comes next in an early college setting. We know that that's very successful. And to get an increased number of CTE completers. And as you've already heard from our economic development colleagues, it's very critical to our community that we start to train students in this way, because we have so many jobs coming down the pike that if we don't start to do a better job, we won't be able to take advantage of these huge opportunities. So I'm here to tell you that I think this is a great relationship for us to have, and a good place for us to consider moving. So
exciting.
It's pretty exciting. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Gretchen.
Before you go, actually what this program does for AACT also is open some places, because there'll be some of those kids go to the TMCC, say that we're in nursing and they want to go into one of these other fields. So
Right.
when they leave, that'll open up places at that school.
That's not necessarily how I see it, because most of those students are 2 years into a program by the time that they would enter to TMCC, and so we want to continue them on their pathway to completion. But there would be some opportunities for them to switch over. Keep in mind that when you're talking about a CTE course of study that's 2 or 3 or 4, 3 years, most of them are 3 years except for one, it's hard for a student to go to AACT as a junior if they have had no prior coursework, because they go in and end up taking freshman and sophomore classes that don't fit their schedule as juniors, and sometimes that impedes them from making it to that completion level. So we will have some students that leave, but I don't necessarily see it as a way that we open up spots for other students to move in, because that might play against us. So I think that this is really about educating the public, educating counselors, educating high school administrators about who are the right students for these program spots, and really targeting those kids that want to look at career opportunities in these pathways, because we know that the need is there and we know there are opportunities. Did that answer your question?
It doesn't help me, because most calls that I've gotten since I've been on the school board is that waiting list. How do I get on that waiting list? My kids, hands-on, and I can't get on that list, so it won't open up that list.
But this might open up places for them at TMCC High School if they're not on that list. So it does provide another opportunity for them to enter. And remember too that the wait list at AACT is long, very true. But by the time we get through the sophomore year, almost all of those students have been accommodated somewhere, either at AACT or in their zoned high school. It's a difficult transition at the junior and senior year, obviously, because it is not a traditional high school, and the pathway piece is very important. But we are really working hard to accommodate that wait list.
Good. My phone rings off. Come the first day of school, I kind of...
The wait list is a hard thing,
I know why you're calling. Yes, Mr. Rosenberg.
I like it because it gives a little bit of respect to something that I know needs respect.
Yes.
Technical and vocational. I think that is absolutely dynamite.
Absolutely.
Well, I would invite you all tomorrow to come to our last professional development of the year in Signature Academies and Current Technical Education, where Interim Superintendent Tracy Davis will be telling us about how very much respect this particular course of study has. Plug, I got a little plug for you right there. 2:30 p.m. at the Academy of Arts, Careers, and Technology in the restaurant. How that works out.
Subtle, very subtle.
I know, that was awesome, right? I can't help it. I can't help myself. So,
Dr. Taylor.
Dr. Ryan, two things. One, you answered one question I was going to ask about the benefit, because I know most of our CTE programs begin in 10th grade. And so you answered the question why the 11th grade model fits. And it really does make sense, and seems like it meets the need. First off. Second off, I would say to all of you that worked on it, Gretchen, all your colleagues from TMCC and those from the school district, I mean, this is our being responsive to what we see going on in our community. And I think we've been, we're being asked to do that. And I really think it's us doing our due diligence and being a part of this expansion that's happening, and really positioning our students to take advantage of it. So I think we'd be remiss. I'm very excited about us being involved at the front end of this, instead of 2 or 3 years after, when the Gigafactory opens up and some of the other industries come, and then we're like, oh geez, now what are we going to do, and so on. And our kids can't take advantage of these great career opportunities at these middle skill levels, I guess, if you will. So I'm excited, and I really appreciate the work that's been done, and I think it's us getting involved at an early stage and jumping in, and I'm proud of it. I really am.
Well, and if I can address that, Trustee Taylor, because we have been talking to some of our donors out in the community, and the response has been, okay, when is this happening? We are so excited about this. And initially we were talking about starting in 2017. Well, one of our donors said, can you make this happen a year earlier? And I said, let's see what we can do. And so now our proposal to you is to start next year, which is just fantastic. Just the response in the community is overwhelming.
It's necessary. It's needed. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Next year is 16, right?
Correct.
Yes, you.
I just want to thank everybody who was a part of the committee and collaborative effort. I know we went back and tried to come up with a good model. We started off with a model, and then it went one way and another way, and then we really found something that would be beneficial to students and also beneficial to TMCC as well as the Washoe County School District. So I want to commend the committee on the hard work of the feasibility study, so we got it right. So thank you.
Mr. Rosenberg.
I remember discussing this when I was a member of the Board of Regents, hoping that we could make it happen. I think it's wonderful that it is. And if I may, I'd like to move to approve expansion of TMCC High School to include a technical pathways option beginning in fall 2016 with 50 11th graders.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded, but we have more discussion.
Of course.
I just actually wanted to say, very similar to what Trustee Taylor was saying about the important need that this fills. I was actually on the phone with my sister, who's a teacher in Massachusetts, which is often lauded as one of the best education systems in the country, and it is very strong. I'm not going to, I lived there for many years myself. But what I will say is that my sister indicated to me that they do not have anything along the lines of what we're offering in our signature academies and our career technical programs. And when I told her we were discussing this today, she said, wow, I wish we would have something like this in my town, in my area, and she lives near Boston. So I just want to say that this is clearly a very creative and innovative and forward-thinking approach to meeting a need, and I really want to appreciate all the folks who worked on this, because at the last discussion we had, we did ask many questions. And I feel very satisfied to have had those answered. So I appreciate the work that you've done and the presentation that you've provided today to really address the need that it serves, the demand that's out there, as well as some of the structural pieces and financial pieces that we have to consider. So thank you for the great presentation.
Maybe you can tell your sister to have her companies back there get in touch with Edon. Yes.
I do want to echo also what my fellow trustees have said. I think this is a long time coming, and it's been a question that that has been asked to me as a trustee since I've been in office, but also over the years too, that, you know, where's our focus on these key areas. So I think we're really meeting a community need, and I really want to credit Superintendent Davis and the team for bringing us something back that I think is very workable and positive. So I think it'll be important for members of the community to hear the savings, because and that's why these partnerships are so important, and also to have our community supporters here speaking on behalf of it. I know these two gentlemen well, and so honored to have you here and supporting it, because that's what it's about. It's about these community partnerships. So I'm really excited where this has transitioned to. So thank you. Thank you for the work.
Thank you. And I just want to mention too about TMCC's participation and our financial participation as well, because we have a lot of work ahead of us at TMCC now with the second phase of renovation at the Edison Center, which is really instrumental for this program. We'll have 2 dedicated classrooms for this program, in addition to some office space and some student areas. That's going to cost over $800,000 for that, in addition to the renovations that we're undergoing for phase 2 that are totaling $4 million. So the commitment from the college is great, and now we are moving forward, just waiting for approval and going forward to the donors to secure funding. So any assistance and any word that you can have out in the community would be helpful to us as well. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. McCleary.
Well, I see we have a letter of support here from Michael Dermody, and I've known Michael for a long, long time. I've worked with several projects with him, so I'm very impressed that he took the time to write a letter, because he very seldom does anything of that kind. And so that, to me, also really demonstrates, along with the people who came here today to give their testimony on this, how important it is to this community. And I would agree, not only is it important to the community, but for our students, the options that it gives more children to be able to do something that they're very interested in. It's that hook that's necessary to get every child by name and face to graduation. And the issues at AACT, somewhere down the line, we also need to look at that expansion as well, beginning with 50 children and moving, you know, a few here, a few there. There has to be tremendous community support, because if we were to go into a complete technical high school, you're looking at about a, what, 14, 15 million or 30 million, I don't know. But it's, you know, that's a vision that we've had off and on. The signature academies are doing their part, and we need to be certain that those are all flourishing before we do anything in the way of any expansion. But I'm very, very pleased to see that Michael has supported this project as well. Thank you.
If I just respond to Ms. Sawyer's comments, and in her absence, really express our appreciation to Dr. Sheehan for her leadership in this as well, and the commitment, and you're sticking your necks out. The $802,000 number in the presentation is a big commitment, and it's the partnership, I think, as Trustee Ruggiero said, that matters from a community standpoint and the educational community. So we're sorry that she's stuck.
Yes,
but we really do appreciate just her leadership and support.
Great,
Yes,
I will
think,
pass
yes,
that
please
along.
do.
Thank you.
Okay, then we're ready for the vote. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same signal. Carries unanimous, let the record show. Thank you very much for all your hard work on this, all of
Great
you
job.
hard-working committee members. Okay. Do you want a break? Do any of you need a break? She wants to have one.
Yes. We'll have to go. I gotta go.
Okay, let's take a 10-minute break. I'll be back at 2:25 or 3:25, I'm sorry. We're on break. Now that recess is over, we'll get to the stars of the show. Every time I go to Sparks High School to watch a basketball game, I think of Joe. You know why? He and his son painted all the floor with the railroaders and everything on the new floor after Sparks got done redoing it.
Well, I would like to add to that, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
That my leadership graduating class through the chamber resurfaced the outside basketball courts of Sparks High School.
Well,
I know.
with the new cement and everything?
It was in 2003. I can't really remember that far back, but we did.
You know, you did it.
You know, I'll
Remember,
have to go look because I'm sure you wrote your name in the cement.
I did.
With love, Lisa.
Okay,
All right, well, good afternoon.
good afternoon.
For the record, Chris Cobb and Joe Gabica, both with Capital Projects and Facilities Management, your chief and deputy, and we're here to talk to you about next year's capital improvement plan. I know this looks to be about 5 months earlier than you're typical of seeing this. And I have to say a lot of that effort is due to the man beside me, and we're trying to get ahead of the game here. We're bringing this to you months ahead of time so that we can get these things planned, designed, reviewed, and permitted, and then even allow it to be bid in a timely manner so that hopefully we'll get good numbers on it, and the other thing is we're not rushing to get things out, and it gives us better timing on accomplishing these in a correct manner. So with that, we'll get started here. Capital renewal. I'm learning from our illustrious communications department, we may be renaming capital renewal. A lot of people have difficulty. What is capital renewal? Well, it's major repairs, replacement, upgrade. All the things that are breaking and falling apart, we need to replace them. So capital renewal, that's what we're talking about here, is a capital renewal plan and what we plan to do in the next year. Currently, just to bring you up to speed, our school district, we're in some serious need in our repairs. We have approximately $250 million of unfunded capital needs. Along with that, every school has needs. The majority of the projects are absolutely necessary. They're what you would call expired. If you remember, expired and unserviceable or expired but serviceable. They've passed their useful life. These are critical items and they're in need of replacement. Overall, just if you noticed on the right there, we're talking about a total of 93 schools. You know, over 33% of them are over 30 years old. We have some old infrastructure, and you have an outstanding group that's doing the maintenance on them, and the plan before you, I think, will take care of our most critical needs in the next year. I think a lot of you are used to this graph, and it breaks down our major categories of needs. That 250 million, that's your first two columns there, and that identifies those immediate capital renewal needs that need to occur, the repairs and maintenance. And that's what a lot of discussion around the rollover bond that we got passed, and things that, you know, we'll be coming back to you in the future to discuss and how we'll approach that. But these are the needs to take care of what we own today. So how did we get here? How did we develop this plan? Well, a lot of it was it's been done. You're tracking this. You have a whole group that tracks everything in your schools. It's the Facility Condition Index System, information system. And that's your regulated systems department. They go to every site every year. They're tracking everything. We're working with our maintenance folks. We're listening to our sites, and we're documenting where we are, what the lifespan is on it, and that's in a program. With that being said, you could come up with, you'll have 60 items that are what we call a category 3. They're expired and unserviceable for HVAC. Problem is, now I have 63s. That's going to be a hard decision when I only have so much money. That's where Joe's come in, and he's spent a lot of time and effort with our facility maintenance folks in going through and looking at what are our maintenance calls, what are the needs for service there, and really having to pick. Unfortunately, it's the worst of the worst. Where are the worst situations that we need to deal with? And we have them across the board in every shop. And so that's what we're looking at too. In the past, there were some areas that we may have done some work in plumbing or irrigation. Well, we need to start doing some work there too. The number of calls and number of maintenance, it requires some help in those areas so that it's not a constant callback. So across the board, what you're going to see on this next slide, next 3 slides, you have a total of 54 projects that we're proposing to you in 21 major categories. All total, it adds up to about 9.9 million. Now, what I've done that's probably be new to you is I've actually listed out the schools and the types of projects and the costs. Now, these costs, you're going to take a look at them. That's just not the estimated cost of construction in there. And let me reiterate, it is an estimated. We're working in a very dynamic environment with the bidding. This also includes your cost of your labor of your district staff that do the planning for it, do the construction management of it. It also includes the cost of consultants that are required to do design. It includes the cost of permitting, getting the permit from our sister agencies that unfortunately we don't get a break. It's not free. We have to pay for it just like they do. So we keep crying to them, but it doesn't work. So this includes several other costs that typically you don't see in other agencies' budgets. They just have a construction. Ours includes all these other overhead costs that are included in it. So it's, you'd almost say we're operating like a business. We include our business cost in here in our labor. These next 3 slides, like I said, they do cover each of the projects. And with that, you know, if there's something specific you'd like to talk about, some of them are regulatory and required. We're working with, and we have a plan. But if there's something you'd like to dive in, I know Joe has spent the better part of 6 months putting this together, along with, we're looking at a 3-year plan. So this is next year's, but we're trying to build a 3-year plan that has those costs so that we can, if we experience positive bidding atmosphere, you know, we might be able to come back to you and say, hey, look, we've already have this, we have this on the next year's, we want to move further. Right now, just to let you know though, it's a difficult bidding environment right now. And we're seeing it, we're working with purchasing. Both sides of the house, we're reaching out to contractors, but there are times we're getting 1 or 2 bidders on a project. Labor's not here in town. The growth is starting to show, and it's starting to show in our ability to get bids on projects. And we're seeing some of them go up. Right now, I'd say with this year's plan, we're probably breaking about even. We've had some come in, some come over, but I think our greatest concern is the number of bids we're getting, and just it seems to be dropping off. Here again, both our staffs within our department and purchasing, we work closely together, and we're doing our best to get out there and make a lot of contacts. We're talking to AGC. How can we get more to the table? So with that, if there's any questions on the project specifically, Joe can answer those directly.
Well, I have one question, and that is flooring. Like, say, McQueen High School, for example. If you go in there, looks like a war zone. The carpeting's so bad. Is there any way that you could tear up the carpeting and finish off the under cement like the new schools are? Maybe put a green and silver color to it. Maybe their logo in the main entranceway or something like that. Is there any way we could do that would be cheaper?
There could be. It's about the same, maybe even a little more. If you haven't been up to Galena High School, I forget what hallway. Do you know what?
I don't
One of the wings last year, working in actually one of our staff, Tammy Zimmerman, her father works at the UNR at the university with the facilities. That's been a big part of what they've been doing on all their buildings is the areas in their hallways where they had carpet, they're going to polish concrete. We took a look at it last year. I worked with Paul Lamarca and OSP. We took a tour of UNR. Galena was our test case last year in the hallway. It turned out amazing. So the cost there, I think one, it wasn't a large enough area. So we had probably a little bit more than what we would expected to pay for the carpet removal and replacement. But we are looking at McQueen and the other schools you see on here in our hallways going to polish concrete. One of the biggest reasons too that we heard is long-term maintenance cost.
Yeah.
Not only on refinishing the concrete, but our custodial maintenance cost. In talking with our custodial and our housekeeping staff at North Valleys, at our newer high schools, the custodians there said the amount of time they save in cleaning that space as compared to a carpet space, just quantifying that, you're saving a bundle of money. So that's what we're actually looking at in the hallways. The classrooms, we're still keeping the carpet. It's just, you're talking noise and everything else. But where we can, it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be, well, this is the tried and true. No, let's look at what other options we have out there that help us out and help us out long term. So long answer.
You're doing it.
We're doing
You're
it.
already planning on doing it.
Yes, sir.
That's great. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's all right. You know, another thing I want to say, you know, you go into like Moss School, elementary school, 25 years old. It's almost like it's brand new. Your facility maintainers that do yard, paint, all this, do such a wonderful job at preserving an investment, because it's an investment when the community pays for schools like this. Yeah, it's unbelievable when I say to some of my friends, well, Moss is 25 years old. They go, oh, it can't be 25 years old. You know, they can't believe it.
And I would say our maintenance folks are, man, they are trying hard. You're going to go to some sites though, and you're not going to see that. And I would probably say that you probably have to shout out to your site administrators and their PTOs. They are a huge, huge help here at their schools. And I think a lot of schools, some of the things that you see, they're helping. They're helping in ways that we can't do it. And I can't think that enough, and that's something that we've talked a lot, myself and Joe, and with our staff. We're going to have to embrace this volunteerism with these PTOs. We're going to have to find ways to do more of that. Just as challenged as we are with budgets, it's something we have to embrace and see how we can even take that further. So I think there's a partnership, and that goes with the schools and the parents, along with our maintenance staff and projects.
Trustee Ruggiero.
Okay, so these will be completed.
All intents and purposes, this would start off July 1 and hopefully by the end of next summer. Okay, the intent is to be, typically you talk fiscals, it's hard to say it's all going to be done in fiscal. We are talking about 54 projects, and this is your capital renewal plan. This does not include all the signature academies that we're working on, safety and security, secure perimeter fencing that we're working on, finishing up the wireless. This is a huge list. It's a lot of work. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's all going to be done by next summer. But by approving it now, we get a jump start on it. We're finishing up what we got going. and this puts us that much further ahead, getting to it and getting ahead of the game.
Well, I think kudos to you. I like this process and how you're showing us the details and what schools. I really appreciate that. That tank and incline has been a long time coming, so I'm excited to see that. Of course, the door locks and the alarms. You know, we don't think about those things, but that we have to replace our PA system or our alarms, and those are things that we're dependent on every time we have children in our buildings. That those are so critical to keeping our kids safe. So I really like the layout, and I think these are definitely needed projects. So.
Well, everybody's talking about being out there in the open. I want not only you as trustees, but everybody in the public, they can see where their next year's money, where it's intended to go, and what we intend to do with it.
Yeah.
And these are listed in priority order in each of these categories, so you understand. Sitting down and working with our shops, that first one on the list, that was the top priority. So we will work through these on a priority order. So, like I said, if we're starting to come over budget, that bottom one may not happen. There again, if we start coming under budget, we may be back to you saying, hey, from next year's plan, we have these, we'd like approval to move forward and keep going. So the intent is to take care of these in the order they're at. And the best part is, it's really getting maintenance involved and understanding that there is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, and we are trying to take care of those issues that are really spending all our efforts and time on.
Dr. Taylor.
Chris, thank you, both of you, for your work in this. My question is, where does, I know it isn't on this piece because it isn't necessarily inside of the facilities, how about the outside of the facilities? You know, some of those are some of those are in pristine shape. Some of it may have, I've met with a couple of PTOs in the district, and some have been very involved, in those efforts, and there are others that struggle a little bit more. What's the philosophy or the way that those are handled?
Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you.
For the record, Joe Gabika. I'll answer that. Actually, there are quite a number on the outside. I mean, roofing is all outside.
Oh, okay.
When we look at this, basically, we've always used the mantra, warm, safe, and dry. Okay, so the first thing, is warm, and that's why you'll see a lot of money basically going into HVAC, because if we can't keep the kids warm or cool, they're not going to learn anything. So that's high. The other thing, of course, is safe, and that's a big part of what Trustee Ruggiero is working on with the commission. But we do have some monies that we're working on the perimeters and that kind of stuff. But there are PA systems that enter into safety, even carpeting could enter into safety. I mean, if you got ripples in the carpeting and kids are tripping over it, that's a safety issue, and so we try to address that. And then last, of course, is dry. So there's a huge amount of money goes into roofs every year. We got about a $3 million program for roofing that we've got to kind of continue, because we have, just literally, hundreds of square acres of roof, and we live in an area that has a really large diurnal temperature swing. So basically, a roof can go from 20 degrees in the morning to 100 degrees in the afternoon, and they're really not designed to be that flexible. So we have to really stay on top of roofing, and so that's a high area. And then if you look under painting and under mobiles, there's a lot of exterior painting and exterior work being done in those areas as well. So and in the grounds, there's some irrigation stuff that we're taking care of up at Hug High School. We're doing some work up there on some sprinkler systems this year, and we're going to try to finish up that program next year. So there is quite a bit of work out there that we need to do. Chris has also burdened me with taking a little harder look at playgrounds and fields, and so we're going to try to see if we can integrate as we move forward over the next few years here. We're going to try to see if we can integrate within some of these plans some things there. Our grounds department did bring to us a safety issue with one playground, if memory serves, over at Agnes Risley, and we're in the process of getting that taken care of under last year's program. So, where they bring specific kind of safety issues to us, that kind of comes to the top when we take care of it. So, but, we do need to look more carefully, I think, at playgrounds. We need to look more carefully at fields, specifically playing fields. And as time goes on, we'll look at that. But again, we're still working at the warm, safe, and dry stuff, and this is the worst of the worst of the worst. And if you got to make a choice between a parking lot and a roof, it's always the roof.
Well, I appreciate that, Joe, because when I said outside, I should have been more specific.
Yeah.
Those were the areas I was speaking more of, the playgrounds and the fields. And certainly, I mean, there's athletics competition, but you know, those are used for, you know, for PE classes and so on. I was thinking more in those areas, but you answered that from a warm, safe, and dry standpoint. So thank you.
Mine's just primarily comments, and just not having seen prior reports, I do want to say thank you for the timeliness of the process. It sounds like you're ahead of the game, and that probably took a lot of organization work on your part, particularly since it sounds like you really drew from the staff in the grounds and facilities to get their input on the worst of the worst and what we need to focus on. I also really appreciate the business mentality that you brought to the way you costed out the different projects, and I think that that's very important from a transparency standpoint, to be able to say it's not just that the construction, but there's a whole lot of other costs behind it that we're paying for. So I want to just thank you for both of those.
Can you explain the 23 baby boomers? Those schools, for those who might see that and wonder what that might be.
Those were the ones I went.
Those are the schools that were basically built in the 50s and 60s. Not Virginia Palmer. Yeah, it was Virginia Palmer a long time ago. Actually coined those as the sheep shed schools, but we were told not to use that term anymore. So we've gone to the baby boomers, because they were the schools that were built in response to the baby boom. There's actually 3 generations of those. There's 23 of them altogether, and those are ones that have some electrical disconnect issues. Basically, some of the Pringle switches and other things are almost freezing into place, and you get electricians out there to work on stuff, and they're afraid to turn those disconnects off for fear that they won't get them turned back on. And so that's where we're going. We're trying to get those replaced so that our maintenance people can work on them. But that's what those are. If you want specific examples, there's
I think that helps.
Duncan, Drake,
that
Beck,
just gives an example of what is meant by 23 baby boomers.
Yeah.
TMI.
We actually have little monikers for all of our design schools, so that when we talk mostly internal, that we know what we're talking about. You've got in the elementary schools, you got the baby boomers, you got the pods, and you got the pinwheels. By and large.
It's for one of our younger trustees.
What the hell's a pod and a pinwheel? Baby boomers? What is that?
You know, but those things that you might get cited for, like ADA equipment, backflows, you take care of those things first, don't you?
Yeah, they're actually in the plan.
Oh, okay.
Mayor.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're well ahead of that. You've had a transition plan that actually Joe put together, working with several people that we're actually looking at circling back on that and seeing what's the next phase of our transition plan, as well as there's money set aside in Fund 40. So as we have students transition even into our district or even from one school to another, if we have ADA issues that we need to deal with or changes occur, we have funding set aside to deal with that.
Well, you guys do a nice job, and your staffs are happy, and happy staffs make happy kids. But you're going to have one big position that you got that's going to be hard to fill. Vern Cashie's retiring, and these tables, all this offices, everything. He's done it all, you know, and he's going to be sorely missed. Believe me, I don't know how you're going to fill that position, because he's been around for a long time and done a lot of good work. Oh, I didn't see. I'm sorry. I talked before.
So 2 comments. First, I want to say how great it is that you have your FICA system working and you're using it, because that's really transparent. It lets everybody know what's going on. I can't wait until that information makes it to the World Wide Web. And then the other thing is, I'm glad to hear that there's been some more emphasis in the future coming on what we can do with parks. Because I've seen some parks, and I know I've had some conversation with folks that's like their playground equipment that maybe it hasn't met its full usable life, but it sure looks like it should have. But
absolutely.
So keep up the good work. You know, as I get out to schools, that's one of the things I always look at, is just what the facility looks like. Because I really believe, you know, like you said, what is it, warm, safe, and dry. Warm, safe, and dry. You got to meet those basic conditions for, not only for our students to succeed, right, because we're all about kids, but really for our adults in the building to want to be there and do the job. If they're in a dumpy place, you know, it's harder to want to do well. The motivation's not there. So keep up the good work, and hopefully we can do quite a bit on this list to make an impression. And you know, I just hope that we use materials going forward as things have evolved from 40 and 50 and 60 years ago, whatever the baby boomer schools might be, where we might get longer lasting results and improved material now. Maybe it's worth a little bit extra money sometimes, is what I'm learning the hard way on some projects I've done, to buy something more expensive, but if you go from 30 years to 50 years, it might be worth it. So.
Great.
Thank you. With that,
the
that was our presentation for you.
All right, then yes, I do. Okay, go ahead.
So will you report back to us and give us a status update about how?
If that's what you would like, we'd be more than happy to next year.
So
you
we
know,
can hear how it went?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
We actually approved a very similar plan in September of the 15 plan, which is the projects that we're bidding and going into construction on right now. And kind of to, kind of use your question earlier, sometimes we do have to defer some things, but it usually is due to something going on at the school. Just as an example, we had a roofing project all planned, and we're going to have to defer that for a year because there's some programs going on at Sparks High School that really we can't do them both at the same time, and we're here to serve the kids, so the programs are going on, and we're just going to defer that project for a year. So sometimes they do get delayed for a year because of things going on in the schools that we can't control.
One thing I would like to identify that I missed is I truly appreciate, and I don't know if she's still here, is Andrea Sullivan and her staff.
Right here.
She's got three people in that office for purchasing that deal with our capital. This is only 54 projects in the capital plan. This is not the signature academies, all the safe and secure perimeters, all the maintenance projects. It's her and two other ladies that are putting this all out on the street working with us. They are an amazing bunch, and it wouldn't happen without them. So it is a partnership.
Ditto.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Trustees approves the 2016 capital renewal plan for the Washoe County School District facilities.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Show unanimously.
Thanks, Pete.
Logan, is this your swan song? No, you have one more meeting.
I have the remaining two. I decided to come to both of them.
Oh, great.
I'm sorry I'm late. I was at an academic signing for you and
Hey, you know.
Oh, nice.
After what you did for the end of the year meeting, you can do no wrong.
And Logan was also a recipient at the WEA Scholarship Awards.
All right.
Congratulations.
Oh, good.
There goes Reno High School kids.
All right, thanks for coming.
Just a second, I want to know something. Who's the spokesman? You? I want to know.
She's walking
You
around
know,
to the
I
right.
heard that there's a new drinking fountain in Reno High that purifies the water, and you fill up your bottles with it.
If you can see it, they have a bunch of them on the UNR campus as well. It's a water fountain, put them above it, put it into the wall. It's a spot where you can stick a water bottle, and it pours purified water into the water bottle. And it's because we have several students who use their water bottles and stuff, so we have one currently in the hall outside our cafeteria, and then I think we have one gonna be installed or already installed but not working near our library. But that's, yeah, and I know a lot of students who use it regularly.
And this was an idea that the students put forward, right?
Yeah.
And you were heard, and action took place, right? That's democracy in action. Go for it.
Good job, guys.
Thank you for being here.
Coming.
Shameless.
Bye.
You are shameless.
That's great.
Okay, we'll move right on along here to 6.03, discussion and possible action on long-term legal counsel for the Board of Trustees, including consideration of internal versus external representation for discussion and possible action. Board of Trustees are the presenters.
As I recall, Mr. President, you wanted this to be on the agenda so we can discuss what our future steps may be, so you can tell us.
Yeah, you know, this, I think we have to look at, you know, everything's happening and everything, but do we want to maintain outside counsel for board meetings and parliamentary procedures and that kind of thing, or do we want to go back to 3 internal attorneys? I'd like to hear some discussion on
My understanding is, the way I see those is they're really 2 different questions. I
Yeah.
thought my understanding was our desire to obtain special support for board meetings, for our open meeting law guidance, as well as our parliamentary procedure. I saw that as separate than the 3 people inside of the district. That was because we were in a situation where we knew, you know, what we were doing wasn't working, and so we decided to get some outside help to help us through that. I didn't see that connected to what they have going on internally. That's my comment.
what. Yes.
No, I was pointing at you because I saw you over there.
You know, I kind of wonder if, and I don't know if that's the appropriate forum to move forward with this item, but I kind of wonder if maybe we should schedule a work session around a policy we would want to create as a board of trustees, and maybe bring in our policy coordinator and look at how we'd want that to be. So we formulate a policy and adopt a policy that works, so we can answer kind of Angie's question or both of your questions, or a whole nother question in general around this item on how the legal counsel is going to work.
Well, we got to do something shortly, because we got to put out an RFP if we're going to have outside counsel. So, you know, we don't have, and it kind of gets slow during the summer, and we got, you know, do we decide, you know, we can't let it go for too much longer, because if we decide on outside counsel, we got to start looking at that RFP.
Well, then my question goes back to what Trustee Taylor was saying, just the relationship between that decision and the decision around staffing in our Office of Legal Counsel. So I'm trying to understand that too, because I did not recognize that to be, I know we had made a decision, and I thought we had talked about this before, and I'm comfortable with the role of outside counsel to provide us guidance on open meeting law and in our meetings and with parliamentary procedure. And I know we're working on our board policy regarding legal counsel. I'm trying to understand kind of the question the way you posed it, President Mayor, had to do with whether we're going to have an additional attorney in the legal counsel's office. So I'm trying to understand how those 2 relate. I understand budgetarily there might be an issue, but I want to hear from Superintendent Davis on what the needs are of the legal office as well.
Well, I'm glad you called on me. So I think when it comes to the board and their purview for parliamentary procedures and that piece, that's something that distinctly you have to determine. When it comes to the management of the district and utilizing, it's beyond just deciding on attorneys. Are you going to decide on how many police officers, how many teachers? Like, that's based on the need of the district. Right. So we have to be clear in the purpose. So I think they are very separate. Does that help?
Well,
Yeah, I think so.
no, I don't think so. Because if you're going to have 3 internals, isn't that, you know, why do you need an outside counselor?
But you might need 4 internals one day. You might need 5 internals as the district grows and our issues grow.
So I don't think we're adding internal candidates. We've had 3 attorneys, so let's backtrack to how we got to 3. There were 2 attorneys. Our needs are growing based on special needs students and all these things that came about. So we had to hire another attorney to help with those things, separate from whatever happened in the district. Right. So when you start talking about, well, do we need 3? Do we need 2? The question is about the work. I know we've talked about having an audit about the scope of the work to ensure that it's meaningful. But if we're taking attorney away, right, what does that say about the work that's being, there's work being done.
Yeah, I'd like to view this decision as what we would like in terms of our representation as a board. And then, like you were saying, the management questions around the workload of the general counsel's office in the district is 2 separate questions.
That's a superintendent's staffing issue
Yes.
in my mind.
That's what I would think. I agree.
President, may I say something? I'm
Yes,
reluctant to weigh in on this at all for obvious reasons. But I thought Mr. Mayor. I thought that the decision had been made already to have board council separately, and that was a long-term decision. Whether it's my firm is a different issue. But I thought that was the whole point here, and that you've now gotten to that point. So maybe I was mistaken, but that was what I thought.
Well, if that's true, and you're all shaking your heads, and I haven't missed a meeting, I may have slept through one, I guess. I don't recall us saying that we wanted permanent outside counsel.
Well, I think, oh, I'm sorry, your hand was up. And then Lisa, I think, were you waiting for comment?
No, I mean, we did make that decision that we would go for outside legal counsel. We agreed that we would temporarily use Mr. Malloy's services through September until we could actually do a process that was fair and open and transparent, but we did have immediate need. I'm assuming your firm will, unless we really offended you, your firm might be.
I actually enjoy this most of the time.
That your firm may be interested.
Dances to the masochism table.
If you feel the need to do an RFP, obviously we're going to apply. But that is a different issue. Is all I wanted to point out. I thought that the matter of having a board counsel I thought that was behind it.
Mr. Smith first, and then Howard.
I recall the same information Lisa did, with one add-on. I think it's just important too that we make sure we have a clear understanding where the boundaries are, because I'm not sure if everybody who works in the district understands where the boundaries are, and maybe in the legal department, how do they feel? Do they understand that they're still doing a job, that Mr. Malloy or whoever is not their boss? They're not reporting to Mr. Malloy?
I hope they understand that by now. I've tried to make that very clear, Mr. Smith.
And also that they're still serving us in a variety of ways as well.
That was the discussion we had at the policy meeting, when the legal policy that was pulled from the agenda. Part of that is their conversations with external counsel as well as internal counsel on the best ways for them to work collaboratively and make sure those rules are very defined and reinforced by the superintendent's leadership within so that it is necessary, and that's connected to the policy part.
Perfect, but that policy's not here.
That's
no,
correct.
It was pulled.
It
so
was
that
on the agenda, of course, and let me just fill you in a little bit, if I may, Mr. President.
Yes,
you may. Mr. Reich and I have been sharing a few emails, and we actually met face-to-face this morning at my request, because I've always thought that face-to-face meetings are more productive and generally produce more understanding between the parties. So I took it upon myself to invite myself over here to see him today, and I did do that. And it was during that meeting with him that I suggested to the board president and to the board vice president that we pull this agenda item that was on 6.07 today. So that is still a work in progress, but I felt after my meeting with Mr. Reich today that he and I can come to an understanding about that. And I might add too that when I wrote the written contract that was approved for my firm through September 30th, that I tried, and may not have succeeded completely, but I tried to write it in such a manner that it made it clear that I had a completely separate role than he does, or that his office does. And I think we're making good progress there. I didn't want you to think that's been dropped or something. And we've actually met on that face-to-face this morning.
Perfect.
So we're hopefully going to come up with a document that for the approval of the board, maybe even at the next meeting.
And my understanding was that was a very collaborative meeting, and the two of them.
It was, and I'm glad we did it. I wanted to do it that way, and I'm glad we did it. I hope Mr. Reich feels the same way. I think he does.
Howard?
I think it's important that we separate the two. Many times we put legal counsel before this situation in a very difficult spot. By separating the two, I think it'll make it much clearer and will help us tremendously in avoiding some of the pitfalls that we've fallen into.
Good point. If, and I take it that we're going to have external counsel, then one of our actions, and I think this is legal under the title of this item, that we direct purchasing to start an RFP process.
I think it's actually the next item.
Is it the next item?
This was more, I think this item, this item was
So
more for
it
that
is.
discussion we've just had.
Okay.
I think.
Cal Surprise.
Okay, then let's go to,
If I may, do we need to vote on 6.03?
well,
Clear it up if there's been any confusion.
yeah, I'd like to have a vote on it, to say if someone would make a motion to either take long-term or internal.
Well, then wait a second. For clarification's sake, I move that the board endorses the process of keeping outside legal counsel for meetings with the board as opposed to legal counsel within the district, which is still to be decided. Okay, make a if somebody will second it, make a friendly amendment.
It wasn't a second, so it can actually be a brand new amendment.
Fine. You say it better than I do, try.
Okay, I move that the board continue in the direction of having outside legal counsel for, actually it was in your agreement that we just approved, pursuant to the agreement that we passed at the last board meeting, because it detailed what the role was, when that council would be engaged, and how that council interacts with internal. It was detailed.
I second the motion.
Wait a minute,
Just a second.
wait a second. Long-term.
I think Trustee Taylor stated it pretty well, except I think the discussion has been, has it not, whether it's pursuant to the contract that I wrote and was approved, that it will expire in September 30th, that regardless of that circumstance, the matter of outside legal counsel of someone, whether it's me or somebody else, will continue. And I think your way you said your motion, if I may say, Trustee Taylor, was kind of restricted to that contract, and I think it was, you probably intended it to be broader than that, did you not?
Right, I just wanted that to be the parameters, because as Trustee Ruggiero said, it wasn't broad enough, because the way it was originally intended. Maybe Dr. McCleary has some clarification.
Well, I don't know that I have some clarification, but I agree with Trustee Ruggiero's point. It's for more than just board meetings or important meetings. It's for any kind of advice that we feel we need in relationship to whatever particular issues that we occur. And it's on a long-term basis as well. And the way we've been doing it so far is that it runs through the president in relationship to what the issues are.
Okay, if I may try again and see if I can't capture this.
Sure.
Since there was never not a second, so we can just keep making
That's
motions
right.
until we get one.
Till you get a second, right?
So I move that the board continue our agreement to have outside legal counsel pursuant to the contract that was signed with Mr. Malloy's firm, even beyond the expiration of that agreement.
Well, that sounds real nice to me, but I'm not sure that's what you intended.
Oh, what did I intend? Tell me what I intended.
The way you said that, with all due respect, Trustee Taylor, it made it sound like it would be my contract for a longer term.
Okay, that's not what I intended.
That's not what the contract says. Now, if that's what you want, that would be fine with me, but I didn't think that was what the board was discussing.
Go ahead, Nick, go ahead.
Okay, maybe I can try this motion thing.
try it,
It'll be
you
my
try it.
first one ever.
Let's go. Make it good. Make it good.
Okay, let's see. Cross your fingers. So I move that the Board of Trustees moves forward with outside legal counsel to handle all of the needs of the trustees. That's my motion. So that's meetings, that's if we have a legal issue that we may need to call the attorney because we need some clarification. That's whatever those needs may be. It's very broad.
Yeah. If I may say, I think that what you're saying, Mr. Smith, is comprehensive of what Trustee Taylor was saying about the contract in its terms and what the duties of the board counsel are, not necessarily for the contract itself being renewed. I'm just saying that, as I understood Trustee Taylor's motion, she was trying to make a motion that said that the duties as delineated in the contract that was approved are those that you expect board counsel to continue to do, whoever that may be.
Right.
Okay.
What he said.
May
No,
I
that
suggest-
is my intention.
May I suggest that we take a 5-minute recess to complete our deliberation on exactly what the motion should be. Can you do that?
No,
Is that
I
illegal?
suggest we just make it,
No.
let me give it another shot.
No, we can't.
We can't
Okay.
deliberate anyway.
Let,
Let me try, may I give it another try?
This is kind of funny.
sure, he didn't get a second, so.
Well, we just want to make sure that we're and not in violation of anything. We want to make sure we get this right. So my motion then would be that we continue to engage outside legal counsel with the parameters that were stated in the agreement that the board approved at the last meeting. However, not being tied specifically to that firm. Is that closer?
That's much closer. The parameters of the agreement include the terms. So
Include the
excluding
terms. Should I say the terms of the, not the parameters, how about the terms of
all
that
the
agreement?
terms with the exception of the condition and term about the expiration date.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not so sure, Mr. Mayor, that we really, I know you asked for us to make a motion, but I think we voted on this in the last meeting. We just needed some clarification. I don't know that we need to actually, I don't really know what we're making a motion.
You know, it's, if I may say, and I understand your point, Trustee Smith, if I may say, I think that the way this agenda item is written, all that you really needed to say, if you wish, if this is the pleasure of the board, would be to say that you are going to continue with outside board counsel indefinitely on the basis of the terms of the agreement with my firm, with the sole exception of the length of the agreement and the identity of the lawyer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my motion then will be that we continue to have outside legal counsel based upon the terms that were expressed in the
Section 4.
in section.
Got it right here.
Oh, why don't you make it then?
Okay, I move that the Board of Trustees continue with its use of outside counsel, providing the duties as described in the contract in Section 4, the contract with Malloy and Associates, without reference to the firm itself, or that they would be
Or the
providing that
expiration
service, or the expiration date. So just solely Section 4, which describes the duty of board counsel and legal services to be rendered.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any more discussion on the completed motion, the motion and the second?
Question.
Yes, question.
I think we need to insert indefinitely
Okay.
or long-term,
I'm
one of
comfortable
those
with
two
that amendment.
words.
I'll accept it.
We're going to take. Okay. You'll agree with that on the
Yes,
motion
yes.
and the second?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, does anyone need it repeated? No, I don't see anyone wants it
JJ will have a heart
repeated.
attack. What are you, crazy?
redo this?
Yeah.
I can try it, make sure I got it right.
Could you say it?
Okay. So, the motion was that the Board of Trustees continues with the use of outside legal representation for the board on an indefinite basis, providing the duties assigned in Section 4 of the current contract.
Take out indefinite. That was the friendly amendment that Trustee McClory recommended and was accepted
Yes.
by Trustee Franco and.
Take out
and-
indefinite?
So leave it in.
Trustee
And
Rosenberg.
just indicate that that's a friendly amendment too.
That becomes the new motion.
No, you don't. You change the motion. When it's an amendment, you change the motion.
Okay.
So the motion should not have indefinite in there.
Well, wait a minute, may I say something?
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, no problem.
I'm confused
That's
now
why
by
we got you.
I'm confused now by indefinite or definite. Because if you're talking about indefinite in terms of time, I think your motion is, that's what you meant. Indefinite, you would have board counsel, outside board counsel, whoever, with the same duties as I have now under my contract, indefinitely.
I was just repeating what her amendment was. That's fine.
So is the next step the RFP?
Yes.
Next step is the RFP under the agenda.
In selecting who that board counsel will be. After we vote, we haven't voted.
Okay. This has been a good discussion. I don't think we discussed it like this before.
Well, I just think it's important, I don't care how many times it takes us to get it
Yeah.
right, that we want to get it right. And to
That's
take the
right.
time to do that is much better than us having to come back in another meeting and doing it again.
Yeah. Okay, so do you need it read
No,
again?
I
Okay.
don't.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same signal. Carries unanimously. Let the record show. Okay, now we move on to the next one. Discussion and possible action on the timeline for and contents of a potential request for proposal, RFP, for outside legal counsel for the Board of Trustees for possible action. This is for Tom and Andrea.
President Mayor, Interim Superintendent Davis, members of the board, and Student Representative Logan Carson. For the record, Tom Szynski, Chief Financial Officer. Is this thing working?
Yes.
You hear me okay? Just test. So the good news is you're not going to have to hear me speak a lot because I'm going to turn this over to our Director of Procurements and Contracts because Andrea's an expert at RFPs in this process. So we did want to take this time if this is the direction that the board is going, and obviously this is the direction the board is going.
Mr. Mayor, the superintendent has brought an issue up that I think, if, with all due respect to the whole board, ought to be addressed. This item, 604, says possible action on the timeline for and the contents of a potential RFP. The superintendent's concern, which I think is a legitimate one, is that the way the previous agenda item was written, it didn't say anything about an RFP, but it probably should have. I will deny any responsibility for that. I didn't have any input on this, but regardless, if there's going to be an RFP at all, and I imagine that's the desire of the board, I don't know, but if there is, maybe that should be considered under 603 rather than this one, because this just says action on the timeline for and the contents of
So
an
if
RFP.
you look at
I'm happy to
603,
make
part
a
of the
motion.
recommendation was a recommendation for an RFP, so then you would go to the next one. It seems a little.
The title didn't say RFP in 603, but since the attachment, sort of the underlying discussion was about that.
Honestly, I'm just really uncomfortable the way this whole thing is going. So do we need to just, I mean, this is a mess, this conversation. So what do we need to do to fix this or to put this on a future agenda item? Let's have, I mean, this should not be this difficult.
Well, if you didn't have an RFP at all, you wouldn't need to worry about a timeline. But if you're going to have an RFP, then 604 is appropriate, is the problem.
I'm sorry, so will you just say it again, so we can go on to 604 or we should not go on to 604?
Well, 604 just talks about the timeline for and the contents of an RFP.
What motion do we need to make, or what discussion do we need to have to enable us to be able to move forward on an RFP?
Well, that's what I'm worried about, and 603 did not say anything in the title about an RFP, but it said that in the underlying report, or whatever the right terminology is, on the agenda below the title, it says, where does it say? The board will...
And then in the recommendations under 603, it says the board will determine if there's a request for an RFP as part of that motion to move forward to 6.04.
And so under 603, a pretty good argument can be made that you could do an RFP under 603. But it doesn't say that in the title.
Right. So may I ask this? Because I think I want to refer a little bit back to what Trustee Smith said before. I thought that when we first made the motion to ask you to come on in that immediate basis, that to ask your firm, part of that motion was that to do that in the immediacy, and then there would an RFP would follow, so that we can have an open and transparent process.
You certainly are correct, Trustee Taylor, that an RFP was discussed at that time, whether you might have one, but I don't think any decision was made about whether there would be one then, was there?
It was in the motion, I thought it was in the motion. I made the motion.
If that can be read, that would be wonderful.
Yes, please read it.
So the motion was from the April 14th meeting, and it was that the Board of Trustees approves the retention of the law firm of Maupin, Cox, and LeGoy pursuant to NRS 386.410 to serve as independent legal counsel to the Board of Trustees commencing immediately on an independent contractor basis as needed in the short term upon terms and conditions to be described in an appropriate written agreement and consideration of voting to accept requests for proposals from qualified attorneys and law firms to serve as such independent counsel for the Board of Trustees on a longer-term basis.
So it's already done.
Yeah.
It's kind of already done, is the way I look at it.
Yeah.
What do we, I'm with Trustee Reserve. What do we need to do to be sure?
That's not contrary to what I thought was approved. Sounds like what was approved to me was that you might do it on an RFP. Not that you were going to do it on an RFP back in April.
Okay.
That being the case, I think if you want to go RFP at all, then you probably could do it under item 604, but it's not. It should have been under 603, and it doesn't say that in the title.
Why, yes, Mr. Rosenberg.
Read the, if you read this, the Board of Trustees determines if a request for proposal should be issued for legal counsel to the Board of Trustees. That says it in 603. In 604, it says the Board of Trustees provides direction to staff on the possible issuance of a request for proposal for outside legal counsel for the Board of Trustees.
Well,
It seems to be saying the same thing, doesn't it, Mike?
With all due respect,
Sure.
Trustee Rosenberg, the recommendation is not the agenda.
I see.
And that's the jackpot
I
you
see.
found yourselves
Okay.
in when you appointed interim superintendent Tracy Davis. As much as you wanted to, it wasn't in the title of the agenda. And that's the same problem here.
You know what? I'm going to ask that we pull both of these 6.03 and 6.04.
We approved
We've
03
already
already.
approved 603.
Okay, that we pull 604 until a future agenda, next agenda.
This shouldn't be that complicated, it won't be.
I made the motion. Anybody second that?
Yes, second.
Can he make the motion?
To pull something from the agenda?
Yeah,
I mean, I think that you can, somebody
could
can
do
move
it.
to put it on place it on the table.
Yeah. till
And
next-
that's probably the best thing
Okay,
to do.
I move to table this item until our next regular board meeting.
You're talking about 604, correct?
Yes.
Item 604.
Is there a second?
Should we just move into a future meeting? Because we have policy next week. That may,
Well, yeah, it'd be to our
I said
next
regular meeting.
The next regular meeting is what he said.
I said the next regular meeting.
right, and I guess what I'm saying is because our agreement with Mr. Malloy's firm expires at the end of September, and the RFP process, should we choose to go in that direction, is lengthy. Correct me if I'm wrong, Andrea, and so if we could do it at a meeting next week, because there's a policy meeting next week, if that has not been posted, that may be a time to do it because every week seems to matter. There's not enough time for what?
Post it.
It
Yes,
doesn't get
there
posted
is.
until Thursday. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. I guess my point is if there's time to post so that since we'll be getting together for policy, is there time to post so that on that same day we could have the special meeting to do this one? I'm only being sensitive to the fact that I know an RFP takes an extensive amount of time, and his firm is only under contract until the end of September. And if that week matters, maybe we should take advantage of an opportunity perhaps to save that week. Yes. Yes. I just, well, I just didn't want his motion to limit us. And the way his motion said, it was going to be the next regularly scheduled board meeting. If there's an opportunity to do it before then I would like to be able to take advantage of that. His motion limited us to the next
But no
regularly
one-
scheduled board
No one
meeting.
seconded it. So
Okay,
it's
so maybe it should just be, just tabled to a future meeting.
Okay, fine with me.
That was Mike's recommendation.
That was Mike's
recommendation.
I can't hear everybody. I don't know what the question was, Trustee Ruggiero. To place it on the table? Then, or you could just take it off and put a whole new one later for whenever you want to set it. If you take it off, I don't know that you need a motion to take something off the table. I think the president can take it off unless there's an objection.
Well, I want to remove 6.04 and from the agenda.
Now, to be careful, and there's nothing wrong with with a motion to do that, and I would recommend you probably just have a motion to take it, to remove it from the agenda.
I move that we remove this item from the agenda.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So carried.
Sorry for the people that came here for that.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so we can move on to 6.05, discussion and preliminary approval of the proposed revision of Board Policy 3110, budgeting, formerly entitled Budget Planning, and the proposed deletion of Board Policy 3120, preparation of the tentative budget, Board Policy 3130, notice of public hearing, Board Policy 3150, adoption of the final budget, and Board Policy 3160, transfer of budget funds for possible action.
President Mayor, Interim Superintendent Davis, members of the board, and Student Representative Carlson. For the record, again, Tom Szynski, Chief Financial Officer. And so this is the second of the three-step process for this particular item. And so we already went through the policy committee the first time, and so I have with us our budget director, Mike Schroeder, who can summarize what we're doing here again for those members that may not have been in attendance, and then we'll turn it back over to the board. I don't know that any action takes place today because we have to have the third step, which is the final vote by the board.
Good afternoon, President, Mayor, Interim Superintendent Davis, and members of the board. This one should be less confusing than your last item. All we're really doing here is taking board policies 3120, 3130, and 3150 and merging them into 3110. We're not really getting rid of them, we're just condensing them, making them one item. We are suggesting deleting board policy 3160, which is transfer of budget funds. This is more of a regulation than a policy. So when we update our regulations, we'll be putting that in there. We added some language to this, basically to say that we would spend funds within local, state, and federal guidelines. Prior to that, we just said state guidelines. We also aligned this policy with some language that was passed in the 2013 legislative session, where the board's required to establish criteria for determining budgetary priorities that are directed at improving the achievement of pupils and improving classroom instruction. So by proposing a revision through our strategic plan, we're basically saying we're meeting this requirement. So in a nutshell, that's all that's really happening here, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions? None? Okay, so,
I move that the Board of Trustees provides preliminary approval to the proposed revision of Board Policy 3110, budgeting, formerly entitled Budget Planning, and the proposed deletion of Board Policy 3120, preparation of the tentative budget, Board Policy 3130, notice of public hearing, Board Policy 3150, adoption of the final budget, and Board Policy 3160, transfer of budget funds, and initiates the 15-day public review process.
I second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same signal. So carried. Please let the record show. Thank you very much, guys. Discussion and preliminary approval of proposed deletion of board policy 3115, Financial Advisory Committee for possible action. Tom.
Record again, Tom Szynski, Chief Financial Officer. So this particular item is one where we have a financial advisory committee that's been, I'll say, in hibernation for a number of years. I think back to Superintendent Dr. Hager. I think because of the process that we built around the budget, the transparent process whereby we start very early on with the board in that process and then work our way up to a budget work session to get into a deep dive on the budget, and then the subsequent meetings with regard to the tentative budget, and then the adoption of the final budget. We've developed a process that's very comprehensive for the public, and in addition to that, the town hall meetings. So the intent of having a financial advisory committee has become less necessary, I guess I would say. So at this juncture, the recommendation is to eliminate this particular policy. Did you want to add anything to that, Lisa?
No, it's pretty good. It just falls in line with what we're doing with fixing our committee work. So it's kind of housekeeping.
Any questions?
Nope. I move that the Board of Trustees provide preliminary approval to the proposed deletion of Board Policy 3115, Financial Advisory Committee, and initiates the 15-day public review process.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same signal. So carried. Let the record show unanimous. And we skipped 607 and we go to 6.08. Discussion and preliminary approval of the proposed revision of Board Policy 1312, Public Complaint and Resolution Procedure, formerly entitled Public Complaint Procedures for possible action. Lisa.
So good afternoon, Lisa Scurry, Policy Coordinator. We've gone over this policy several times, so I'm not sure if anybody has any questions. Trustee Smith, I know you had one question for me last week, and it was just for everybody's information related to number 3, and he wanted to make sure that the language that I'm taking out, which is, I think I've restated it, and that is that if one of your constituents contacts you, obviously you can speak to them and all of that. In the end, when we're talking about a formal complaint, the idea is that you get it to the superintendent or the staff member who can best help that person. I didn't want to make any changes without discussion here, so if you want any of that revised, certainly I'm willing, we can do that and still get preliminary approval, but, so, does that make sense? There's a lot of in that description there.
Dr. McCleary.
This has been, last time we brought this, we talked about the vetting process, that it had gone to all of the constituencies that we have available to us. Do you feel comfortable and confident that the school side has also taken a hard look at all of this?
They have, and I'm working, it's gotten a little nuts the last few days, but the new administrative regulation is going to go out a second time to all staff. It's been posted for several weeks, as well as the policy has. But we've made some additional revisions to the administrative regulation, and it's going to go out now to all clients. So I'm going to feel much better about what they have to say about it, because it's the actual process. And certainly if there's any strange comments or anything, I'll certainly provide those to you. If you give me preliminary tonight, we can get final the end of June, or excuse me, the end of June. So there'll be plenty of time for me to bring any comments along with final, in case you want to see them. I can attach them to the staff report. If that makes you feel more comfortable.
Yes.
So my only thing was, I actually like the version before it was revised on item number 3. I would just leave that in, just because if somebody is upset and they're trying to find our policy, they should be able to come to a trustee, but it states that a trustee is not, I mean, really we're not gonna do anything different, but we're just taking it away from the wording, so it may eliminate a source of communication for somebody who has an issue. If they went by the policy, I don't see a problem with leaving in that whole line, if approached directly, so on proper consideration.
Where are you?
Yeah, if you take a look in the governance handbook, it talks about constituent services, and I don't think that we've got anything that's quite that black and white in here. It truly talks about some common sense going on, which is, of course, you take information from somebody, but then you have to direct it to the appropriate place. I don't know that it's necessary to be in the policy, but that's just my opinion.
It does seem a little bit redundant.
I didn't hear you.
It seems a bit redundant to me now, because we've said it above. I'm not adverse to leaving it in.
What was the rationale, Lisa, if you would, in deleting that part of the policy, of number 3 on the policy?
Honestly, I think I was just trying to say the same thing with more clarity, and I think I failed, to be quite honest.
It's clear. I mean, clear.
Honestly, I have zero problem taking it out, zero problem leaving it in. Since we had already gone to policy committee, by the time Trustee Smith and I spoke, I didn't want to make any changes since you'd all seen it. That's why I wanted to bring it up and have this talk. But certainly, if you want me to just clarify that language, or if you want to suggest language that we can put it in for part of the motion that just says, although a constituent can always speak to the trustee, I'm certainly open to whatever you choose.
I think that the sentence that's been deleted was actually an alternative to the sentence that's currently there. So I think that, if I'm understanding you correctly, Trustee Smith, the piece that's really different between those two phrasings is the piece about listening to the complaint and showing concern. And that is absent from the red version, the version that currently stands in the draft. So I'm wondering if that's the piece that you were suggesting we bring back in, because the whole sentence itself does seem duplicative to the sentence that's currently there. But that portion that's distinct is the listening to the complaint and showing their concern. Am I hearing you correctly on that?
Yeah, that's the thing that I think should stay in there in some way. Even though we're saying in black, the black line there, individual board members do not have the authority to resolve complaints, but it should be in there that we'll listen and show concern. And I don't see that in the red.
I'm fine adding that phrasing back into the first sentence myself. I think that's fine to convey.
So leave it with a period after concern, or leave the entire sentence?
I think the entire sentence, I think, is duplicative. It gets redundant. So perhaps that statement that says, if approached directly with a complaint, board members should listen to the complaint and show their concern. Then maybe, however, individual board members do not have the authority to resolve complaints. So maybe put it at the beginning.
Okay, so just flip-flop.
Yeah, and then at the however, comma, then individual board members, and then after the comma, after however, comma, jump back at the beginning of number 3.
I got you. Okay. Are you comfortable with my doing that, or would you prefer it come back for preliminary on June 9?
I'm comfortable with it being approved with that amendment.
Does that capture that, Trustee Smith?
No, that's good.
Is there a motion?
I move that the Board of Trustees provides preliminary approval to the proposed revision of Board Policy 1312, Public Complaint and Resolution Procedures, with the suggested amendment, and initiates the 15-day public review process.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same signal. So carried unanimously.
Thank you so much.
I think it's good to show
Thank
that
you.
part in there and not take it out.
And going on to 7.01, board members' request for future Board of Trustees agenda and agenda items. Yes.
Thank you, President Mayor. In light of, I just was reminded by the discussion about the deletion of the Financial Advisory Committee, I just wanted to check on, I know we had discussed at the board policy meeting about having a potential workshop on committees. So I don't know if I needed to make that request here or the status of that, but basically have some discussion about the status of our committees and that whole committee conversation. I think we talked about having it in the form of a workshop, if I'm remembering that correctly.
You know, we have quite a few things for a workshop. Maybe we should combine them all into half a day or whatever.
Sure. I just wanted to make sure that was still out there.
So that's a future agenda item for us to figure out how to do it.
You want it on the agenda, you want it in a workshop?
Just on, a workshop is
Okay.
appropriate.
Because we have 4 items that I know of off the top of my head for, you know, for a workshop. So if we combine them all into like a half-day workshop on
That's great.
Saturday, in fact,
Yeah.
let the staff work out the details on it. Yes, items for the agenda, yes.
Just clarification, I don't know if we decided or not, but I would like to make sure that the RFP for legal counsel comes back in some way, in some title on the agenda item, so we can actually get that process going, or not going, whatever we decide.
Yeah.
We already
bringing it
discussed that.
I just was making sure I wasn't quite clear through all that confusion, if it was coming back or not coming back,
It's
or.
coming back.
Okay, any other, yes.
To the best of my recollection, there has never been a thorough review of our current audit department, and I've been here, well, I was on the audit committee. And I think that one should be completed as soon as possible. And I think that putting that item on the agenda, we need to talk about hiring an outside vendor with qualifications of working with school districts to do a quality assurance review of the internal audit department.
I would echo that. That includes working with the audit committee and getting that
That would be
process
nice.
done. It needs to start down at the
That would be nice.
committee level.
Okay, we'll put that on the further future agenda. I'm trying to write all this down. That's all right. Any other agenda items? Okay, seeing none, the next meeting announcement, June 9th at 2015 at 2 at the Central Administration Building Board Room. And when is our spotlight? June 5th? June 5th at Worcester. At 5:30. Okay.
You said June 5th?
Is it June 5th?
June 2nd. June 2nd.
June 2nd, okay, that's why I was, June 2nd, that's why I was questioning that 5th.
At 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. Yeah, I got Worcester and I had the 2nd, so 2nd it is. Okay. Public comment? I don't have any cards. Anyone from the public wish to speak? Seeing none, we will adjourn the meeting.